Welcome back to the Fantasy Trading Room, hosted by Faceoff Sports Network. And today we're going to be diving into the top waiver wire ads you need ahead of Week 6. So there's been a lot of new injuries, a lot of the new league-changing news. So we're going to be breaking down all the top players that you should be targeting in your fantasy football league. And let's get right into it with number one, KJ Osborn, who is a direct product of Justin Jefferson being likely out for next week. And his injury is not yet known. It is not having an exact timeline. But what we know now is KJ Osborn is probably going to be the number 2 or 3 target behind probably Hawkinson, and then mix in there right with Jordan Addison, who's seen a big role, but primarily in a deep ball type of way so far this year. But KJ Osborn has been pretty solid for the most part. I mean, he's never been fantastic, but he had 10 points last week in Jefferson's absence, and I think this could go up even more. The Vikings are a offense that you want to target for fantasy. Now, I know they've had a very disappointing start to the year. They've only won one game, but that doesn't matter in fantasy because they're actually behind in games. They have such a bad defense that actually kind of helps out their offensive skill players because they're not getting into positions where they can just run the ball. At least for wide receivers, they're being forced to throw the ball almost every single play. And as a result, they're top 5 in the NFL in passing attempts per game. Now, Osborn isn't necessarily the most talented guy in the world, but yeah, he's not a bad player. It's just that there's so many mouths to feed. But now that Jefferson has officially gone down, I think Osborn makes a lot of sense. I really like Osborn this week and going forward until we know what to expect from Jefferson and how long he's going to be out. But he's probably my number one waiver wire priority in what's not necessarily a stacked week. So we'll go over to the running back position and grab the best guy off the waiver wire right now, Jaleel McLaughlin. I hope that's how you say his name, but right now he's barely under the threshold at 48.4%. You can still probably get him, but after this week, it's going to be too late. Week 5, he had a 17.9 point performance. Week 4, he had that big breakout against the Bears. The Bears defense is horrible. He was just filling in for Javonte, had 19 points, kind of lucky. I mean, he comes back and does it once again. He's getting involved as a pass catcher. He had 3 receptions, 21 yards, and a touchdown. And he's not the most talented runner in the world, but he was very efficient. So he had 7.6 yards per carry. There's not much else you can say against that. The Jets have a pretty solid defense. I mean, again, it's not like the Jets are the best defense in the league, the best team. But I really like Jaleel going forward. Javonte may come back, but even so, whatever Javonte's injury status is, it doesn't really matter to me. I don't think Javonte is that good of a player. He's been on and off the injury report the whole year, and he's coming off some pretty serious injuries. So even if he's playing, I doubt he's going to be at full strength for quite some time now. So it doesn't really affect Jaleel. Now, I wouldn't exactly say he's a league-winning type player. The Broncos are a very bad offense, like we talked about. They're going to be trailing games, so if Jaleel wants to be fantasy relevant, he's going to need to step up his production as a pass catcher. And I wouldn't necessarily say that's his bread and butter to his game. But for now, if you are in need of, an RB2 that you can plug and play with bye weeks and injuries, I really think that you should at least stash Jaleel on your bench. And another stash I have is Keaton Mitchell. So Keaton Mitchell hasn't even played an official NFL snap yet. He's been injured so far, and he was put on the IR, and hopefully he is going to be back this week. But even if not, he's going to be back this week or the week after. I think he's a really interesting stash. Now, the Ravens' offense has been pretty solid this year, but they don't really have as many great playmakers as you would like. They have Lamar, but then they have, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers. Unfortunately, these guys kind of struggled. They had 7 drops last week, so the offense is looking for help. Keaton Mitchell isn't by far an elite prospect. He's not like a Jameson Williams who was a first-round pick, and it's like you need to roster him right away just for that upside case, even if I don't think he's necessarily going to be that great on a week-to-week basis. Keaton Mitchell is more – the Ravens have dust at running backs. Gus Edwards and Justice Hill are neither incredibly talented. I really just feel like they're being played because they are on the roster and the Ravens don't want to make any other moves. But I just seeing them play, Neal has impressed me. Gus Edwards is obviously getting way up there. Justice Hill isn't just a great player. He's not a very good runner. He's not a very good pass catcher. But Keaton Mitchell is explosive. Now, he was a UDFA, so the talent profile isn't necessarily through the roof. But he was one of the more underrated draft sleepers, in my opinion. He's blazing fast, ran a 4.37, and I think that can complement Lamar very well. I mean, when you have Lamar at the helm, you have to be ready for him to take off at any time during the game. So if you have a guy that runs a 4.37 next to him, it kind of complements him very well because you have to respect Lamar and his ability to run. But instead of, knowing that Gus Edwards or Justice Hill doesn't have that breakaway explosiveness, you can kind of just stack the box near the middle. You kind of have to be prepared for a Keaton Mitchell outside breakaway run, where if he gets to the second level, he can easily be gone. The bottom line is Mitchell has a ton of upside, and at this point in the season where the waiver wire is getting pretty thin, he could be the starting running back on a very good offense. So I would be grabbing him and stashing him if possible. Then I would go to QB next, and Matthew Stafford is my waiver wire pickup of the week. Now that we have Cooper Kupp back, we've seen that he has not missed a beat. He looks fantastic. This Rams offense should be much better than where they were before. I mean, you see week 4, even without Kupp, he had 16 points. And then week 5, he had 16 points again. I mean, it's just the thing that the Rams defense isn't very great. So, again, it's the thing of defense isn't very good. The offense is going to be forced on the field, which inherently isn't great from a real-life perspective, but actually does help out these fantasy-relevant players quite a bit, especially the quarterback, because his passing volume directly correlates. He had 37 pass attempts last week, looked pretty good, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. I just think Stafford is a good quarterback. Now, he doesn't give you that rushing upside, but he's going to go out there, and he has the ability to throw for a ton of yards and give you some pretty good touchdown upside on a week-to-week basis just on how talented he is. Now, I understand he's getting up there, but now that he has Cooper Kupp back, and we've seen the emergence of Puka Nacua, I really think he has enough weapons at his disposal to be fantasy relevant. You may not be starting him every single week, but again, now it's the time where we have a ton of buys, a ton of injuries. If your QB is, say, Anthony Richardson or another quarterback on a buy and you need a guy, I think Stafford can fill in and replace that void for at least a few weeks at a time. For our last waiver wire pickup, we'll dive into a guy that I don't necessarily love, but he's basically the opposite of Keaton Mitchell. Now, I don't know if I necessarily love his role this year, even though the Chargers are a great situation on paper. He's just not getting as much playing time as you would like, but he was a first-round pick this year. Round 1, pick 21, you see it in the graphic at TCU. The issue is he's more of a project wide receiver. He has the size and physical capabilities, but he just doesn't seem like he's ready in year 1. However, he's still being rostered in under 50% of leagues. Mike Williams is injured, and Keenan Allen and Josh Palmer currently look as the wide receiver 1 and 2. I think that Herbert and this Chargers offense is really going to turn it up in the weeks coming. They're going to pass the ball a lot. That's their identity. And Johnston, if he can just improve, near the end of the season, he had a ton of upside. I think he could be potentially a league winner. I'm not saying there's a great chance, but if you just have a guy in your bench that's literally doing nothing for you, has no chance to move the needle, just grab Quentin Johnston instead. There's pretty much no downside. Just throw him on. If there's another more appealing waiver wire ad in the weeks coming, great, you can drop him. But if he breaks out earlier than expected, or you're able to hold on to him until week 8 and 9, and by then he's fully implemented in his offense, he's really starting to piece things together, and he's playing like a first-round pick, then you have a massive hit on your hands, and it's a great pickup. But the bottom line is, I don't necessarily love Johnston. I actually advocated for taking Palmer over him. I think Palmer is going to be better this season, but there is a chance that Johnston could win you your league. But more importantly, I think he can move the needle. And by that, I mean be a flex option on almost a week-to-week basis near the end of the year. And until then, once we hit week 10, 11, be a plug-and-play guy that you can just replace your injured guys with and guys on bye. With that said, that's going to wrap up this waiver wire video. I know it wasn't the most exciting, but these next few weeks are kind of going to be intriguing for guys that you can stash and pick up for later in the year. So if you really want these hidden gems, guys like Keaton Mitchell, be sure to come back for waiver wire videos every single week. I'm Steve Bradshaw from the Fantasy Trading Room, hosted by Faceoff Sports Network. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.